Keep going. Just keep going. Just
Start over in 3, 2, 1. Start over in 3, 2.
I'm just gonna Baby Yoda sip my coffee here.
Yeah. I think we should keep this. I don't know why.
Baby Yoda.
3, 2, 1. What is up, fellow intellectuals? And today we are on the Get Geek podcast. Where we do like geeky stuff and other stuff.
And other stuff.
Yeah, and other stuff. Yeah.
How geeky are we?
90%.
What? I'm a million.
10% memes for me. Yeah.
110%.
We forgot about that. Wait, didn't you one time like guarantee free memes?
Which I did put memes.
Where?
On Instagram.
I didn't see them.
I didn't see the memes.
I'm your
Instagram.
He's our resident
I'm
meme
not
guy,
lying.
and I think he's falling off. We need to see more memes. We need to see more memes. More memes,
but
Eli.
Most of the memes that I like look at aren't necessarily considered for children. But anyway.
What? What?
Like,
anyway,
you'd be surprised.
Tell us what we're doing today, man. Tell us what we're doing.
My name is Eli.
Yo, this is Jose.
I'm joined by two other guests besides this one over here to my left.
This is Wolfie. What's up? I'm one of the other two guests.
And this is the other fellow intellectual guest, AJ, over in this corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And, today we're going to be discussing part 2 of House of X and Powers of 10.
Yes, sir.
This is our second episode, and the issues that we're going to be discussing are, do you have the list there, actually, Eli?
I think we have it here.
It's Powers of 10.
So, yeah, because the order's a little bit of not a mess, but it's Powers of X2, Powers of X3.
Wrong.
Powers of 10, excuse me.
I was going to let Eli correct you.
Powers of 10 2, Powers of 10 3. See, I'm confusing myself and trying to,
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Just, 1 second.
Right here. So yeah, we're discussing some more comics, bruh. Yeah, Powers of X, Powers of 10, 2, Powers of 10, 3, and then House of X 3.
Yeah.
Is what we're getting to today, right, Eli?
Yeah.
That's what we jumping on. So, shall we jump right into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
So, all right. So, gonna give you guys the synopsis. We're gonna go quick synopsis, issue by issue, and then talk a little bit about the art from each issue, the art and the dialogue, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the first issue we're gonna be discussing is Powers of 10, issue 2, and it is titled "We Are Together Now, You and I." Okay. So. Xavier and Moira visit Magneto on his island base in the Bermuda Triangle. Magneto not really wanting to see their face, but Xavier's over there, and he's come to mend old wounds with Magneto and try to create some sort of partnership with him. And despite initially mistrusting him, Magneto agrees to open his mind to them. Magneto at first would never open his mind, thinking that this is a ploy for them to finally take control of him and put an end to him. But he does agree to take his helmet off and allow Xavier to touch his mind. Through Xavier, Moira reveals her true nature to him, giving Magneto a glimpse into her previous lives. Seeing the many ways in which he has failed, Magneto agrees to Xavier and Moira's proposal, which is a long-term plan to guarantee the future of mankind. And that is, if you guys remember, that is in the X1 part of the Powers of 10. So before I continue, for those of you guys that are still need a little bit of a refresher, Powers of 10 follows a little bit of a schema where it's X1, which is the early days of the X-Men timeline, X10, which is the present timeline, X100, which is 100 years into that timeline, then X1000, which is 1,000 years into the timeline. So that was in X1, which is the early days of the X-Men timeline. In the present timeline, which is X10, Magneto and Xavier show Cyclops the plans to the Mother Mold, which is a master mold that creates other master molds. They believe that the mother mold will usher in a new generation of Sentinels, and that this is when Nimrod emerges. They order a strike on the mother mold, which is on a station orbiting the sun, and Cyclops leaves to assemble a team. In the X-100, which is 100 years into the future from that point, I believe, Cardinal and Rasputin return successful from their mission, having retrieved an indexing machine, which will allow them to know the location of key machine intel. Krakoa manages to successfully decrypt the index, revealing the location. War points out that the information is useless since they would have to hold off the Sentinels in order to access the interface, which would in turn be a suicide mission. But Apocalypse assures them that they will succeed, as he will personally lead them. Which, again, it's just one of those things that's super striking to me to see Apocalypse leading some form of X-Men team.
Heck yeah,
it's freaking amazing. I
is
love
one of my
this. This is like
favorite
one of
parts
exactly.
of this whole comic run.
It's a seller. It's a seller. And now finally, 1,000 years into the future, the Librarian and Nimrod have been successful in their plan. In order to prove their value to the higher civilizations in the universe, they created collective intelligence called the Nimbus, which transforms Nibiru into a world mind. The world mind is found by the Phalanx, who successfully consume it and come to Earth to find its creators. They ask them what it is they seek, and they answer ascension, wishing to be absorbed into the Phalanx collective.
Yeah, this part, that the 1,000 years in the future, especially here initially, this is one of the parts where I had to read it a couple of times because I was like, what the heck is going on here? Why are they
there's
ascending to what?
Right, and it's one of those things that like requires, I guess, just like faith that everything will be explained.
This is definitely, though, I will say, like, since we're talking about the artwork for sure, this is one of my favorite sections of artwork, the X-1000, the future part of it. The artwork that you see here with Nimrod and with the rest of them, I find it to be really striking because it's very, like, cyberpunk.
You know what? Yeah,
really cool
absolutely.
tech-looking art
Yeah.
in the background. And it contrasts pretty well, I think, with some of the earlier art that we see that's focused a lot on, like, the sunlight, the direction of the sunlight, the nature, and like all the natural elements of Krakoa and other places. I think it's a striking and it's a really interesting contrast as well.
AJ, last time you were talking about the colors. How do you feel about the colors of this issue?
Well, they're pretty good for me. I don't know,
Like, to me, I found the colors really, really striking. I love what they did with, like, their color selection, their palette, you could say, for the scenery, and so on.
it's almost like it's not even like the last one. It looked very visceral, very real. Like this, it's like you're taking a snapshot out of time, and it's like that painting of the Christ table thing.
The Last Supper.
Yeah, the Last Supper,
like
that
that.
like super famous, world famous Da Vinci
It felt like something out of
or Michelangelo.
I don't remember who
No, it's Da
painted
Vinci's.
it. It might be Da Vinci.
It's Da Vinci. It's
I
Da
just
Vinci's.
remember that it was called The Last Supper.
Da Vinci's
like,
Last Supper. Yeah.
Everybody uses it in pop culture now for a bunch of. I think what was it? Battlestar Galactica had a poster when that came out years ago that used the same layout. They had people sitting around the table.
Right.
There was something else that came out recently that had that, but that notwithstanding, I was gonna say actually, like you're right because the art in this is a little bit more like some modern art or like some painting, like something that's really really interesting about it because it's a little softer. The lines are not as hard as some of the edges in the previous episodes or the previous issues. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I think maybe the end art is a little bit more striking to me too when you go into the future and you see Nimrod and all
That's
that.
true. I mean, it's funny that you said that like, like for you, it felt like this is like a snapshot in time, but it really is, right? Because we're talking about the past. This is the early days of the X-Men timeline. I personally found that there was a lot of really cool work done with the colors over here. The art in this book were amazing. It was amazing to me. Looking at a panel here where Xavier is, essentially the point where he's showing Magneto all of Moira's lives and everything that Moira has like told him, and like this like purple filter on him. It's I really like how they did some of the colors here, and then then the image. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the most striking images in the entire issue, which is they're not just showing. They're not like Xavier and Moira aren't showing Magneto just the all of Moira's lives, but specifically every single way that Magneto has failed, showing him that his way is not going to work no matter what he tries.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the only way that they felt like that, which I think is true. Magneto's one of those guys that like he's not going to. He's the see it to believe it kind of guy. Like, you know, it's his way or the highway, and he needs to make sure that his way doesn't work first. You know,
Magneto's a chess player, right? So if you tell him he's going to fail, then he starts thinking about every single move he's going to make, and he's like, I'm not going to fail. What are you talking about? I'm Magneto. I never fail.
Right.
I always win, even though he never wins. That's not true. But, like, yeah, like, it definitely makes sense that they did it that way, because they showed every single instance where every step that he took that he thought would lead to success led to spectacular failure. I mean, they probably even showed him dying a couple of times, I would imagine.
Well, they did, yeah,
Right?
I mean, yeah, for sure.
That's the ultimate failure, I guess.
I wonder
when
if
you die.
like, because they didn't explicitly say it, but do you think that I'm assuming that he felt all the deaths also?
Probably.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Probably.
physically, you think that maybe that was like
I
It's like
can
the
see
crow or
that.
something.
Yeah.
It's like the crow. He's like transferring the memories and the
Yeah.
pain, like he does to that guy at the end to beat him.
Yeah, and
So I can definitely see that.
This part's pretty interesting too. Like, after all of this, in a show of trust, Moira picks up the helmet and gives it back to Magneto so that he can go back to, you know, protecting his mind from any other telepaths. You know, before they ask him to join forces. You know, so it's like, you know, return to your safety net, and then let's discuss about joining.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty striking, pretty important.
I think it was a great show of trust and kind for him basically removing his helmet and deciding to trust them, and her showing like your trust was not unwarranted. Not only did we tell you everything that was going to happen, but we trust you to protect yourself again, because we feel that now that we've shown you all this, like, what else can you do but be on our side? We showed you dying and failing many, many times over. So it's a really good way to set up this issue.
Yeah, I'd like to read a couple of these panels, specifically the panel where Xavier does ask Magneto to join him. Xavier goes to Magneto, and not as Magneto but as Eric. He says, "Join us, Eric. Join me."
Oh, I like this.
And Magneto, in his kind of like godly look, says, "I won't acquiesce to sympathy or doubt, Charles. I won't give an inch. I will check you at every moment of weakness, and if you falter, know that I will not." And Xavier extends his hand and says, "I would expect nothing else."
This, I think, moment also is, as X-Men always has been, well, has mostly been good at, they find ways in these moments to give you the character in a nutshell. And this is definitely a moment where you see Professor X and Magneto kind of in a nutshell. Magneto saying, like, I'm going to trust you, but if this messes up, or if you fail, or if you trick me, like, basically, I'll kill you. Or, like, I'll take over, whatever it is. And that's the Professor X that, even though, like you said, he's different, like, and it's a little bit more of a jerk, the Professor X, than we're used to, there's still that aspect of him that trusts the people that are his friends or that he's been involved with for a long enough time, sometimes even a little too much. So you get that from this scene, too, I think, this little snippet.
Yeah.
All I gotta say about that scene is...
You must have more to say than bruh.
Because if you look at Xavier's eyebrows, damn. Hold on, if you go back...
Oh, with his 5 o'clock shadow from having shaved earlier that day.
Yeah, damn. His eyebrows like go like a triangle or something, bro.
Magneto doesn't even have pupils, bro.
Jesus, bro. What
This
the
is
heck?
a really good panel, though. I like this. This
I
entire
like
page
the
is
panel,
well done.
But like, damn. Whoa. Jesus, what the heck is up with those eyebrows, bro?
Some of the character designs are a little off, but I think the artwork is nice nonetheless.
So it turns out, I guess, that the main crux of the problem in this world is I'm sorry, and it looks like Eli actually wanted to interject before I moved on. But what did you want to?
What up?
Or were you gonna do another bruh?
Yeah, no, we're not stopping.
I was
for
about
that.
to do the scene that you're going to do.
Oh,
Tell us about it. Then.
go ahead.
Wait,
Tell us
what?
your thoughts. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. There's oh, I thought you were gonna do it, but
No,
there's
go
a
on,
scene
it's okay.
with
This is a round table discussion, so let's go around the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you find interesting, or what did you find worth mentioning about that scene?
face. I think it's Cyclops.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cyclops.
Oh my
Jesus,
gosh, you don't know
I
who
had a brain-
Cyclops
I had
is?
a brain fart there.
I'm
I had a
gonna
brain
throw
fart.
this coffee in your face.
I think I had a similar one last week, but I don't remember what it was because that brain fart is just stuck in my head.
I
Go
just
ahead.
had a super brain fart. But anyway, one thing, if you flip back to like page 12, there's this one scene that I really one panel that I really like actually. And it's just the last panel where it shows then it will be done. And,
Right.
And like I really like this scene because it shows how Cyclops has grown over time to be much more of a leader in a way.
Right. Which is interesting if you
Yeah.
think about it, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean the you know, the thing is that like Cyclops has always been the de facto leader of the X-Men in the field, but he always did kind of have like an underlying questioning of like Xavier's intentions and this, that, and the other and whatnot. Whereas in this scene, you do kind of see very emphatically that he's not really questioning anything. I mean, for sure he's questioning what's going on and what their whole purpose is, but when he's told that, you know, we need this done, he accepts it. You know, more militaristic than ever. I feel like the Cyclops is.
Yeah, he's a good soldier.
Yeah.
More than he ever has been. Because he not only has he doubted Professor X, but he's doubted himself so often in the past as well. His own leadership abilities. He's doubted his fellow X-Men. He's had his rivalries with Wolverine.
Yeah, exactly. There's always been like the infighting, and that's actually to kind of be to harp a little bit more on that. That's one thing that I enjoy about like this whole new X-Men world that they're building is that it's no longer like that was, in my opinion, corny. You know, or like
That constantly fighting.
the repetitive like love triangles and the inner rivalry where like there's nothing really bigger than them. You know,
That's
now
true. They
things
never
are like
grew past it
yeah,
for
they
all
never
these
really
years.
grew past it ever. You know, now like I'm sure like some of that stuff is still there, and I'm sure we're gonna see more of that stuff in the future when it comes to like personal relationships between other mutants. But there's such a big thing with like their whole nation building thing and their geopolitical situation that they're trying to kind of show in the Dawn of X, which is what they're trying to build through here. That, you know, we're kind of getting away from that, and that's kind of taking like a little bit more of a side, you know, step or a much lower role. Like, you know, the story of Cyclops and Wolverine's relationship isn't that big of a deal anymore, or at least it doesn't seem like it's going to be.
That's what's interesting about the comic as a whole in a
Yeah.
real way too, because it's about the bigger picture now, like it has never been.
Yes.
In X-Men. which
So
is
now,
interesting.
speaking specifically of this about the scene, in this scene we kind of get exactly what our what their purpose is, what the sense of urgency is. So up until this point, they've been working towards a future, you know, where they can have, you know, the nation of Krakoa as their, you know, their island nation and all that stuff, where they can give mutants the freedom that they deserve. But before they can do that, they need to stop Nimrod from happening. And this is the scene where we get that it has to be stopped. And in this specific scene, there is a specific scene where you can see Xavier and Magneto looking directly at Cyclops. And Xavier saying they have to be stopped. And Magneto adding, remember, this will be a frontal assault of an orbital station tens of millions of miles away, built by a secret organization whose sole purpose is the extinction of mutants. Can such a thing even be done? And this is where we get to Eli's frame or you know, scene that
It's a
he
great
just spoke
panel, a
about,
great statement right there.
where Cyclops says, does it need doing? Xavier says yes, and so Cyclops replies, then it will be done.
I just want to mention with the artwork here, I don't know if you guys noticed this. I noticed this the second time around when I watched this, when I read the issue. Doesn't Magneto in that top right panel look a little bit like Fassbender? Is it just me?
Oh, dude, yeah,
He
you're
really
right.
looks like Fassbender right
Who's
there.
Fassbender?
The guy who plays Magneto
Yeah.
in the newer
Yeah.
X-Men
Yeah,
movies,
he
Michael
does.
Fassbender.
You know, it
he
might
looks like the actor.
I think it might be more due to like the
does.
design of the helmet is
Yeah.
more akin to the one of the movies.
Yeah, it might
You
be
know.
that, but there's definitely I got a little glimpse of
Yeah.
like his character right there,
Yeah, that's true.
which was interesting. But moving on.
So now we're in the year 100 section,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where we have the future X-Men, which again we see Magneto in a green costume now instead of the white one that we've been seeing in the present day. Cardinal and Rasputin, but Wolverine, and I think Wolverine's the only one that we see aside from Apocalypse. We have Apocalypse here, looks awesome and almighty, love it. Especially this scene where we get like the profile image of him. God, I mean, I love the artwork in this issue.
That's my guy.
The dialogue is great too.
You know what? Can you talk to us a little bit about Nimrod? I still have trouble like understanding Nimrod.
So, from what I understand, Nimrod is the apex, not android. Why was I going to say android?
Sort of, isn't? Well,
Yes,
AI.
Well,
Apex, he's
AI,
artificial intelligence,
But he's like
Sentinel.
the Sentinel on
Yeah.
top of Sentinel on top
Yeah.
of Sentinel, basically.
Like,
yeah,
think of
he's the ultimate. He's the Apex Sentinel.
like, think of a Super Saiyan Skynet.
yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
God, that sounds scary.
he's the Sentinel.
Basically that.
Well, he's the evolution, the further evolution of the mother mold, correct? If
Like,
I'm not
maybe
Yeah.
5 or 10
Right.
times over.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They're trying to stop Nimrod from happening, but as you can see here in year 100, Nimrod happens.
Look at that.
He is.
The
you
power
might say
outburst is so cool.
inevitable.
Yeah,
It's what it seems like because they always run into him, even in the older comics.
Yeah.
When they got into when they get to the future, Nimrod is always waiting for them.
Well, if you remember in the what was it? Was House of X 2, right? The last one, the one with Moira's reveal. Yeah, it was House of
Yes.
X 2. Yeah, she said that like the one constant thing is that artificial intelligence. Its supremacy is inevitable, and that's like there's nothing. Everything that she tried to do, it could not stop the machines taking over. So yeah, Nimrod is basically
Look at this guy.
the omega of this. Yeah, I gotta admit that he's awesome.
he's got cool characters in
Yeah, there are some really cool characters here.
He has the Shakespearean moment. He has the. I just love his sadistic compassion.
He's got a
Like,
sense of
I'm
humor.
gonna kill you because it's the better thing for you.
This will be a relief for you. So,
So-
this scene here, right? The artwork in this is really, really good. I'll say that much.
I feel like the artwork kept getting better.
That's why.
Like I mean, the
felt like
artwork the
end
artwork was
better.
always good, like from the very first issue. But the more like I'm just scanning through here, and like the lines are super crisp. The colors are amazing. Like oh my gosh, this is some of the best artwork I've ever seen.
This whole part is kind of like it's
I also love Wolverine's look.
it's basically set up because their mission here is what was their mission here?
Their
They're
mission
basically
was
trying
they
to-
needed to get like we still don't know exactly what it is, but it's some
right.
information that they needed to extract. I think it has to do with the location of
It has to do with-
the master mold, mother mold, or whatever it is.
Something in Nimrod related.
Yeah.
is what I remember, but I can't remember specifically what it was.
It was basically what they're doing in the past. They're pinpointing the exact point where Nimrod would come into being. So that way, when Moira goes into her next life.
That's right.
Wait, we're not there yet.
Oh, my bad.
We're not there
Well, at
yet.
least
No
they give us-
spoilers yet.
Yeah, they give us a little bit of a reminder. Of
Right.
what's going
So
on there.
so we're you got a little bit of a hint of what they're actually trying to do, but how they do it is a whole different story.
These guys.
And then we get into the year 1000, which I'm still complete. I still don't understand like this point right here, to be honest with you. But apparently I think this is where we get introduced to the librarian, right? Did we get introduced to the librarian before?
I don't think so.
Not formally.
Right, the
No.
librarian is
No.
this blue character, which we don't know who this librarian is or where they come from, and then we get this is Nimrod the Greater, isn't it?
I think Nimrod the Greater is the AI he's talking.
Yeah, the AI. Yeah, there's a little like
Yeah.
floating piece. So whereas before we had Nimrod the Lesser, which was kind of like a man-machine looking being, in all his mighty power, Nimrod the Greater is just a small little, sorry, floating AI. That it's kind of like, you remember in Halo the what's the name of the floating?
343 Guilty Spark.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like that.
The little
like,
blue guy.
Yeah, the little blue guy that
Yeah,
ended up
that's-
like activating Halo, right?
Was
Like,
that Halo
yeah.
2 or was that Halo 1?
No,
He
Halo.
was in
He was
Halos
in-
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
trying to-
Yeah.
oh,
But a
okay.
Halo 1 is the one that he's following him around and then he attacks him, right?
That's what I'm thinking of.
I might
He
be
turns
confused.
on him, but I
Confounding.
think in
Yeah, he
number
turns on him.
3 he actually starts shooting fire.
Okay. That must be the one
So
of the
this is where we get introduced to the Librarian, Nimrod, their whole, like, they're looking at a civilization here. I mean, really kind of very ambiguous information is being given to us, where you see them. We also get introduced to the Phalanx, which are these kind of beings that have like no real faces or anything like that.
This whole thing kind of reminds me of Mass Effect. Reminds me of the alien race that the main villain is a part of, which I can't recall right now. But the machines that have like basically lived for centuries and eons before, like for each time that all life gets wiped out in the universe, they still exist. This is some. It's like some
I guess
sort
it's
of
something like that.
machine sentient hybrid or something like that.
I feel like this might be like this universe's or some form of interpretation of a god of some sort, because in one of the scenes we have this being that represents the Phalanx, where they're asking this specific civilization that they're looking at in a kind of like a little bit of a cryptic way. They say, the panel reads, or this being reads, they fought for sovereignty and lost, but we, the Phalanx, saw, and that's in parentheses, saw the whispering gods behind it. We, Phalanx, have heard your message, now hear ours. What do you seek? And then you see the being say ascension, which is what they want. And now you see this kind of like black orb, I suppose, swallowing the planet in some way.
It's like a black star or something like that.
Yeah,
But the
so-
reason, if you look at the panel with that godlike being, that's why I get the sense that it's some sort of machine hybrid, because it does what they do.
Right.
in the comics,
No,
right? You get
I
that
believe
square,
that.
that square
Yeah. It
dialogue
has like the
box.
square dialogue box, it, like to denote that it's digital speaking. So
But I still don't really understand what the heck is going on in year 1000. I don't think we're meant to understand all.
yeah,
of
I
it
think
yet,
again, like it's one of those things that you have to have faith that all will be explained. So,
though. Pretty much. Shall we?
so that's
continue?
the and that was so again, that was Powers of 10 issue 2. And following that, we're gonna go right into Powers of 10 issue 3, which is titled "This Is What You Do." So, as the Church of Ascendancy, dedicated to the worship of the machines, is giving a sermon at the Temple of Concordance. All stuff which I have no idea what this is yet, giving us
Excuse me.
more ambiguous information. The X-Men arrive and attack. Omega Sentinel watches from the human machine monolith and tries to convince Nimrod the Lesser of the need to investigate, but he refuses, dismissing the attack. Omega heads off alone to confront the X-Men, where she and her squadron of Sentinels gain the upper hand, prompting Rasputin IV to remove Death's mask, unleashing the black hole contained within his head, killing both the remaining X-Men and the Sentinels. Meanwhile, Apocalypse leads War and Famine into an old machine databank in order to retrieve an information crystal. They are successful in finding it, but are intercepted by Nimrod. Famine opens a portal for them to retreat through, and Apocalypse stays behind to buy them time, which is one of the most awesome scenes I've ever seen in comic books.
Yeah.
Period. War and Famine escape, with Apocalypse seemingly succumbing to Nimrod. Back in the safety of Asteroid K, War releases Mother Aqaba, also known as Moira Kinross. Ooh.
Yeah, remember.
Sorry, guys. Something just kind of like started to make sense from, like, if you're reading the Dawn of X series as we speak, something just made sense.
made
Not
sense?
spoiling anything.
Huh?
Not spoiling
That's a spoiler.
anything. I'm
That's a
currently on
spoiler.
issue
That's a
number
spoiler.
4 of like the entire Dawn of X series, and this is awesome. Now, anyway, so yeah, back in the safety of Astro K, War releases Mother Akaba, also known as Moira Kinross, from her stasis. He presents her with the information crystal, force feeding the information into her mind. As per Apocalypse's request, and with Moira's consent, War then kills Moira in order for her to start over again, now armed with the knowledge of exactly when in time Nimrod emerges. Now, one thing that we didn't speak about is who War is.
Yeah.
We haven't actually told you guys who it is, and we're going to speak about that right now. This is, again, one of those... This, in my opinion, is one of those issues that should have been highlighted in red. So in the back of every issue, you have like the list of the release dates of every issue and the order you're supposed to read it. And the ones highlighted in red denote a very, very important thing, which in one way, it was cool that they didn't, because this came as a total surprise. I thought I was reading an issue that was just kind of normal and dropping information. And then we have Apocalypse against Nimrod and War doing the deed, which is freaking sick. So let's go ahead and discuss. Again, let's go ahead and start with
Let's start at the beginning.
Let's go right at the beginning. So we are introduced once again to, like, I believe this is Moira's timeline, right?
You have to go all the way back. I was scrolling with you
Oh,
as
yes.
you were.
Excuse
Well,
me?
I'm looking at this
Where were we?
first page, and I'll
Hold
tell
on,
you.
is this
Yeah, that's the right one.
Oh, okay. One second.
They show the Church of
Lost it.
Ascendancy, that like half
That we still,
robot,
yeah. What the hell is that?
like half organic kind of looking guy with the kind of weird outfit and weird hat. He looks pretty cool.
Right. So, okay. So right now, in this issue, we're dealing with the ninth life of Moira, right? Which, if you guys remember from our last episode, the previous issues showed Moira's ninth life continuing. Okay, which we didn't know when the life was to end, and we get told here, obviously, that it ends at some point.
Just
That's
This will make it a little.
sorry, guys. I'm on Comixology, and I am lost in my chapters, and we are back.
We got it.
All right. So yes. So take us through. What do you guys think of the art in this issue?
This is another issue where the art is pretty good. I think this is one of the best ones, actually, in my
I mean, I think the art is great everywhere, but it's a little bit different, right? Like whereas in the last issue you spoke about how like you had like kind of like the snapshots in time and so on and so forth. This one seems a little bit, sharper.
Yeah, and
You know,
also
more in your face.
I noticed that there are a lot more lines, and the lines are more bolder. It's a bit different.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, you're right about that. Actually, I think that's what tends to make it like sharper to the eye. I think
You know what I love about this? The artwork
Good
in
eye,
this
Eli.
one. The artwork in this one, if you look at each page, there's a very clear color scheme on every page that's meant to evoke a certain mood. Almost every page, at least. Especially when
A
you get
certain
into
feeling?
like the next couple episodes, there are pages that are hued mainly in blue, pages that are hued mainly in orange. And not everybody in the page is going to be that color, obviously, but
right. But that's one of those things that I enjoy, and it's funny because
you
it
see, it's a good
actually-
example when you look
yeah,
at some of
actually,
these
yeah, you're
pages, right?
no, yeah, you're
There's
right.
a definitive color scheme on each page, and it's really kind of trying to evoke the mood of what they're doing or what's occurring on that page. And that's something that I really liked about this one. I like the character design of Nimrod also. We got to see him in a little more detail in this one.
it's
Yeah.
sick.
Nimrod is dope. Nimrod is dope.
Yeah, Nimrod is cool. Definitely looking forward to seeing, because we still haven't gotten like the meat and potatoes of Nimrod. We've only gotten glimpses of him in this year 100 era that we're getting in a few of these pages in the Power series, right?
You know what it is about Nimrod to me in a way? Like, I've never actually been a
jerk.
huge fan of Ultron. I think Ultron is honestly.
I was
a little
never a fan of Ultron.
don't-
It was a chore to read.
I know you like Ultron in the movie. Ultron in the comic is different though. Ultron in the comic is kind of boring. He's just
Yeah, but that's
like,
also because
was it you that said that you enjoyed James Spader Ultron, or was
I
it that not the
did,
case?
but I also because there was an animated movie that was made way before that movie came out.
Uh-huh.
It was the Next Avengers, where it
Okay.
featured like
Oh, Oh.
The son of Black Widow and Steve Rogers. The son of
yeah,
Black
yeah.
Panther and
I think
his
we were.
queen.
I think I watched a little bit of that with you guys one of the
Yeah.
times that I was here.
That is my Ultron.
That's much better though. I guess I'm more talking about the comic book version, right? Because the comic book version is a little bit different than what you get in other mediums sometimes. But like to me, the reason that I'm enjoying Nimrod so much is because we've known him in the past, of course, but I don't know if he's played this much of a role in any other comic before. And he to me he's a cooler Ultron. He's a way cooler Ultron. You know, like and he's a way more capable Ultron. And he still has a little bit of the sense of humor that to me in the movie with James Spader fell a little flat.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy it a lot. I mean, James Spader is good, but it wasn't great. Right?
Yeah, I mean, in the movie, he didn't really have that humor that, it wasn't really there.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think
more
it fell flat
like
a
a
lot.
sadistic or psychopathic AI,
Yeah.
more than like a humorous one.
Yeah, like
You know?
Nimrod has a really interesting sense of humor, which makes his character really
he's
cool.
a jerk.
Yeah.
He's an a-hole.
Yeah. He's like, I know best, like you said. He's like, I'm gonna kill you because it's what's best for you. But like, yeah, the artwork in this
Didn't
one
he
is
like in the
phenomenal.
last issue he like killed 2 guys just because like I don't believe you.
Yeah.
That's when he blasted them. Like they gave him like a mission report and they were just nervous of giving him the mission report. I don't know if they were lying or I don't remember if they were lying. I don't even remember what the interaction was. But he looked like he just like killed them just because. He was like, yeah, I don't believe you. You know? So here we are with the current team of X-Men, which is Cardinal, Rasputin, War, and Magneto, and Apocalypse is also part of the team, and as well as Zorn, right? Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
I'm going to mention this and we can expand on it later, but what's up with Magneto not only wearing that different costume, but being totally different from what you would expect from Magneto?
So-
he's way in the background.
Right, so
think I know
we
what
don't
it
know.
is,
So I'm assuming that like obviously Xavier's not in this timeline, so Xavier's died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever plan they had. If you guys remember, right? So in last issue, they gave Cyclops the mission to stop Nimrod from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Obviously, something happens where Nimrod still happens, which means, at least in this timeline, that Xavier and Magneto's plan failed.
Mm-hmm.
So, for what reason? Why would he be the leader, the de facto leader?
That's true,
Right.
but and maybe this is a matter of pride. Maybe because he failed, he's kind of letting himself be resigned to the background.
Maybe.
He's letting Apocalypse lead things because
Yeah.
he figures Apocalypse, he's the most powerful
Again,
mutant pretty much ever.
Apocalypse, the leader of the X-Men. How awesome is that? Anyway,
Which, yeah, that's anyway, that's awesome. But go ahead. What were you gonna?
no. So again, we're over here where they're in the middle of this battle, and we have Rasputin, I believe, who's kind of like a fusion between a Nightcrawler and who else? Does anybody remember what other powers he has? He's like a kind of he's a cloned mutant where
Yeah,
like
he's
his
one of-
genes were spliced together between like Nightcrawler's genes and someone else. I forgot what the
That's
details
what I
are
kind
on
of
him.
thought Magneto was too, but that's
No,
That's
No,
just
no,
theory.
no,
Magneto's
that's
just Magneto.
Yeah. But anyway, over here is where we have the introduction of all the Sentinels, where the end is nigh for them. The Sentinels come to like kick the rest of the X-Men's butt. And Famine, who I believe this is Famine, right? Is actually Zorn. And right before, so right here, after we finish our panel with Zorn over here, we shoot over to a panel where we have Apocalypse and War infiltrating, as well as Krakoa. If you guys remember, Krakoa now kind of looks like a group,
yeah.
which is kind of cool. So this is where they're trying to infiltrate Nimrod's base. And actually, the other thing to note that this issue does not follow the whole scheme of X1, X10, X100, X1000. This is just the year 100, if you guys realize.
Yes.
This entire issue is the year 100, which is, again, is a reason why I think it should have been highlighted in red to let us know, hey, this is an important issue.
And it's the end of one of Moira's lives, which is hugely important.
Right. So at this point is where they get the information crystal so that Krakoa can decode it and give them the information. We don't know exactly what the information is yet, but here is where we get to tell you guys who War is. If you guys are just listening in and not following up by reading the books,
It's very appropriate.
War decides to sniff. And he says there's something not quite right.
Who has
Can
a
you
better
guess?
sense of smell than War?
It's going to be
Can't think of anybody
Wolverine.
else.
So Wolverine
So
is
awesome.
represents War. You know, I guess one of Apocalypse's 4 horsemen, right? He realizes that Nimrod has come to attack, and this is where, fast forwarding a little bit to
This part
get
is
to the part
interesting
where,
too, right? Because what was it? Nimrod was talking to the Omega Sentinel.
right?
And
Yes,
the
that's
Omega
what that
Sentinel was
Omega
like, "Hey, the
Sentinel
X-Men are here. We need to worry." And Nimrod's like, whatever. You deal with it. I don't
Yeah, exactly. Nimrod's the one that sent the Omega Sentinel to deal with the X-Men because he already had a plan. He already knew. Again, he's the mastermind of everything.
Yeah, as soon as they got the information, he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, guys?"
So as soon as Nimrod shows up, he creates a crazy blast that pretty much blows Wolverine half to death, aka War. And he tells Apocalypse, "No, you go. I'll stay." You know, and Apocalypse says, "If you could see what you look like, you would know how foolish that sounds. Go. I'll be right behind you." Which, again, so freaking awesome. God, I love Apocalypse so much now. Krakoa opens up his belly, which turns into basically a portal. And now you see the silhouette of Apocalypse looking like an Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder from the 70s facing off against 3 Nimrods.
And getting spanked, which
Getting
is
spanked,
the
yeah.
crazy part.
Yeah, Apocalypse, he's getting destroyed by the Nimrods.
We don't know. We don't see his ultimate fate, but you figure they probably killed him. Like,
Well,
if it's
yeah, I
possible
mean,
to-
you know-
Well, I mean, he's kind of an immortal, right? But at the same
But
time,
it's cool because, like, as
they
they're
ended this form.
as they're kicking his butt, you know what I mean? Like, Nimrod is like Apocalypse, the mutant immortal, older than the world, the fittest of all. How sad this must be. But we don't see him go down without a fight. We see him crush one of the Nimrod's heads down. I mean, you very rarely see like Apocalypse in like this kind of badassery. And Nimrod then goes to know that natural selection has brought you here.
How sad this must be to know that. Yeah. And then they electrocute him, and that's the last we see of him, I believe, in this issue.
Yeah, I believe so. Now,
we
if you
can't-
remember,
we can't forget, like, actually, the moment that was just before this is one of my favorite moments in the episode as well, when Rasputin and Death are cornered by the Omega Sentinel.
yes.
And they remove. And what are the line here? Because the line delivery is really, really awesome here too. I want to take a page from you and kind of deliver the line. So they're basically sitting there. Rasputin and Death are resigned to, well, dying. And then Rasputin says to the Mega Sentinel, "Yeah, well, here's an inconvenience. He has a singularity in his head." Speaking of Death. "If I remove this mask, then all of this will be gone in an instant, so I'm not going to tell you. Stay back. I'm not going to tell you again. Stay back." Death says, "No, come closer. This is the ending I have always wanted." The Omega Sentinel answers, "A singularity? I don't think you will. You people care too much about holding on, even when you have nothing to hold on to. Besides, do you have any idea what lies at the heart of a real black hole? I'll give you a hint. It's where we're headed. It's where we're all headed." And then that line by Rasputin, "You know what? You're right. I don't know." She just pulls off Death's mask and blows all the remaining Sentinels and the
Right,
X-Men that
yeah,
are in
yeah.
this area clean out of the water. The only ones that are left after that are Moira, War, and Wolverine, and Apocalypse, which is where we get to the next scene, which is
Right.
also freaking awesome.
So now, so Krakoa opens up his chest to a portal where Wolverine, aka War, passes through, and we see the image of Moira. Okay, where Wolverine says, "Wake up, Moira, I have it." Okay, Apocalypse knew. Wolverine continues and says, "Apocalypse knew he might be on a clock, so he created some kind of way to force feed the information you need into your mind. Hold still," and he takes this information crystal and plunges it into her chest with like some sort of like gooey substance coming out of her chest, grabbing the crystal. And at this point is where she, I guess, takes in all the information.
It looks like they had basically taken her and like they were using her for some purpose at this point because
Well,
she was
I-
in some sort of stasis.
Well, she was kind of like in a coma. If you remember, in this timeline, we had said that she went into a coma at some point. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she went into some sort of a coma, and I think they put her like into a secret place that you can only access through a portal through Krakoa. So this way they can keep her alive enough to get this information. Remember, guys, that when Moira dies and she resurrects, she retains all the information from her previous life.
So this begs a theory, though, if you think about it, because we were asking after the last podcast, we didn't touch on it very much, but when Moira dies, is it going all the way back in time in the same timeline, or is it an alternate timeline? If you look at it from here, though, it seems like it's probably going back in the same timeline, because why otherwise would they care to prevent Moira from escaping and keep her alive for like 100 years in stasis?
Well, again, it's just so that they can get the information and pass it to her. But
No, I mean, Nimrod and the Omega Sentinel, because they were holding her hostage. It seems, right?
Who?
Nimrod and the
No,
the
they weren't
Sentinel.
the one holding it.
Where
No,
was
this is. Remember, they go through a portal through
Sorry, they go
Krakoa.
to Krakoa.
Yeah, through Krakoa. Yeah, they go through a portal through Krakoa. So they
myself
kept her.
confused.
They kept her in hiding. Yeah, there's a lot to follow here, which is why we're breaking down our episodes into 3 issues instead of the original
Even
6.
we're learning new things.
You know. So Wolverine again finishes passing her the information. He confirms that she's gotten all the information. She says yes, and asks him what now. And Wolverine in his silhouette says, "If we succeed, the old man said to send you on your way because there's nothing left to save here." And then he says, "I'm sorry." And she says, "It's okay. I have what I need now. And this is what you do."
Which is a great line.
And we
'cause
get the panel
you always get
of
that.
the silhouette of Wolverine plunging his claws into her stomach. Which, this is a painful way to die. He could have just kind of like slit her wrist or something. Or like decapitated her so she doesn't feel pain. But right through the stomach, through the spine, that's
here. You remember
pretty
this.
messed up. Yeah. You'll remember how you died.
It is very messed up.
Yeah, so he kills her, and obviously for the purpose of resurrecting her in her 10th and potentially final life with this new information, which is apparently the information needed to save mutant kind. But again, going back to that conversation that we were having, does this timeline continue? Or does this reset everything, right? Like once she's reborn, did all of this now not happen at all, or is this a now another parallel universe? We don't know that yet, and I don't think it's going to be answered at any time soon.
It's definitely not answered here for those.
Right, because I mean, at the end of the day, if obviously Wolverine just told her there's nothing left to save here, so they've already subscribed to the fact that they're all done and they're all dead. Well, obviously, I guess so. If the timeline continues, that's where we get the Nimrod the Greater and the X-Men Year 1000. I'm assuming that's a separate parallel universe then, potentially.
Or what depending on what life of Moira's that is, I guess. Is that still the ninth life? Is that
Yeah, we don't know yet. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not the ninth life. Well, no, that could be the ninth life, right?
Well, it could be her ninth life, but the continuation past her death.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
But
like,
we don't know.
So then if that's the case, then that would mean that this would be parallel universes, not the same life.
But see, I think you're right, though. I don't think this is going to be something that's going to reveal very soon, because in a way, if you figure out whether it's an alternate universe or it's the timeline going back, you will start to figure out what they're trying to do and what's going on. Even though we already kind of know what they're trying to do, but it also begs the question, like, if they're sending her back in time, they're resigning themselves to their fate. But does that mean if she goes back in time, again, this goes back to the parallel universe or same timeline, if she goes back in time, does that change this future?
Yeah.
We don't know. In the past, in X-Men, it's always been alternate timeline.
Yeah. We don't know what the situation is here. Whenever you mess around with like time travel, it's always really wonky, right?
This is why it's going to take us several
And then this issue ends beautifully. So ended the ninth life of Moira X.
Moira 10? Moira X?
I think it's Moira
It
X.
should be Moira X, I would imagine.
Yeah.
As in Professor X?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Professor Moore.
Anyway, so that's that issue. What did you guys think overall of the issue? I mean, we went through the art and everything. I thought the dialogue, I thought everything was great. It's one of those issues that I was like, when I read the issue, I definitely called Walter right away, and I was like, dude, read this issue right now. You have to read it. You can't wait. I was on the edge of my seat when I saw like Apocalypse go down and Wolverine like
Yeah,
punch the
that-
claws. That was crazy.
That was the high point for me too.
This is
Apocalypse versus Nimrod the Lesser.
I was a little. I'm not going to say that I wasn't going to continue reading when I read the first 3 because, as you guys know, it's one of my. I rated it a 10 last week. I loved the first 3 issues, but I was still trying to find. Even though I was entertained by it, I was looking for that hook that was going to get me to continue to try to figure out what the heck was going on. Even though, again, the Moira reveal is amazing, and that's something that kept me somewhat hooked. But when I saw kind of this outcome. Like we said, like I said, one of my favorite parts with Death's mask being pulled off. That was an awesome part. Like it was a cool like sacrifice that was made by them. And then of course, like we said, Apocalypse in this issue is amazing.
Yeah,
like, this is vintage, badass Apocalypse.
so good.
And the art, and he's one of the most well drawn characters. Like
He's
most
just so imposing.
coolest
It, like
looking
it makes me
ones.
want to get a tattoo of Apocalypse.
Yeah,
it's
like-
so awesome.
He's like, man, it really is sad that they haven't done him justice in the movies yet. But hopefully we'll get that in the next era.
They butchered the man. They butchered him.
Yeah, with Oscar Isaac, no less, who
I
enjoy.
love Oscar Isaac, but like, man, like I thought they butchered him. What's going on
What
with your
meta?
eyes? You
What
don't
meta?
think they butchered him?
Oh, that's right. You kind of
I
liked him.
kind of
in
liked that iteration of Apocalypse.
No, dude.
I
It's
kinda
Apocalypse
did.
of Ooze.
Yeah, Apocalypse is supposed to be, well, this is a nitpick maybe, but he's supposed to be a lot bigger than more imposing.
Yeah, I
and-
know.
And he changed
thing
his
is
size
that,
at the end,
Yeah, they show
but-
that they could have used them, but they try to. They did one of those things that I hated in the '90s, like '90s video game movies and comic book movies, where it's like, let's try to put this in our world and be as realistic as possible. Where instead of making him a larger than life being, they show that like, oh, this is how he is, but only in your mind when you're telepathically challenging him. You know, when
gets
in
bigger
real
than-
life he's a huge dude.
And
You know
he
what I
can
mean?
change size. And
Yeah,
like,
and
that's
he
one of
can
his
change
powers.
size whenever he wants. He chooses to be a big, imposing guy because he wanted to walk and talk like a god, which to him, in his mind, he is. So why didn't they show him like that in that movie? That's the only thing that I didn't like, you know?
And I'm not
So-
saying I think Oscar Isaac could have done a great job, but it's more on the people who created it that
Yeah,
messed
you
it up
know,
a little bit for me.
So,
And you know what?
and
let
I
me be
love
nice.
Olivia Munn as a
Yeah,
Psylocke.
she doesn't really do or say much, but
I
don't.
love
she
her
doesn't
as a
really
fan.
need to. Like,
Yeah, I know.
if we're thinking of this the same way.
I love you, Olivia Munn. Take me to prom.
And she does do some really cool like action sequences.
yeah,
though.
no,
But
she's awesome.
Anyway, moving on. Shall we move on to the next
So
episode?
we are
That's-
into the last issue now.
This is the last one we're
of
going
this
to go
episode,
over for
right?
this podcast episode.
Now, this issue is now going to be the House of X3, okay? And the title of the issue is going to be Once More Unto the Breach. Cyclops informs Professor X and Magneto that he has assembled the team in order to attack the Mother Mold facility orbiting the sun. Cyclops briefs the team composed of Wolverine, Husk, Archangel, Monet, St. Croix, Marvel Girl, Nightcrawler, and Mystique on their mission, and they take off. Interesting to see Mystique as part of the X-Men. Under Cyclops' lead, no less.
You only see Mystique as part of the X-Men when stuff is really dire.
Yeah, really, really dire, or somehow in first class and under Fox label. In the superhuman prison known as Project Achilles, a trial is being held for Sabretooth. The trial is interrupted by Emma Frost in, again, super badassery, who presents the judge with a pardon from the U.S. Supreme Court along with all requisite paperwork as the U.S. government has agreed to a general amnesty for all mutants on American soil in anticipation of Krakoa becoming a sovereign nation. Despite the protests of the human officials at the court, Emma and Sabretooth are allowed to walk free and return to Krakoa, which is kind of cool, you know, being able to see like this kind of mutant diplomacy going on.
That's one of my favorite parts of this whole thing.
Yeah,
They went
because
all in with that.
Sabretooth, by all rights, deserves to be in a 24-hour lockdown prison for the rest of his life. That's I don't think anybody can really dispute that.
Like in the real world, if we're talking about this in a real world context, he's a terrorist.
Yeah,
He's
he's
like going to
Osama
Abu
bin
Ghraib.
Laden. He's a bin Laden level, like worse than that.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
because bin Laden does it for like a righteous cause in his mind. Sabretooth does it for fun.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm just going to murder people just because.
Right. Let's recap a little bit that the reason that he's been captured is because they were sent on a mission to get some information, and Sabretooth decided to kill a few humans along the way.
Just because.
Just because. On the Orcus Forge, where the Mother Mold is being constructed, the human scientists detect that the X-Men are inbound. Nightcrawler is sent in for recon and encounters the Chief Scientist and Omega Sentinel. Omega Sentinel deduces that the X-Men plan to attack the control collars in order to send the Mother Mold hurling into the sun, thence destroying it. The X-Men dock onto the station and begin drilling their way in so that they can infiltrate, and realizing that their only hope of defeating the X-Men is an asymmetrical response, Erasmus, the chief of security, sets off a bomb, killing himself and destroying the X-Men's vessel while they're still in it. So, what did you guys think of the issue?
I was definitely thrown off by them getting blown up.
Right? Again, this is the relaunch of the X-Men. Issue number 3, blow up X-Men.
Just kill them all, basically.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you know what I mean? Let's just throw this in there. You know what I mean? Again, interestingly enough, keeping your hooks synced in, no red tag to let you know that there's something important happening in this issue. So again, it just took me by surprise when I read it. It's like, what in the world? So yeah, anything that stood out as far as panels go, images?
Page. I'll tell you the page so you can bring it up and tell me not. But I did tell you that of the entire thing, the Sabretooth trial is one of my favorite parts. And Sabretooth, indeed, in this entire issue is something that really, really, really entertains me. So page 10.
Okay, well,
This panel right here,
so
I can just kind of pop it up.
oh,
That's
that's such a
nice
badass
bit of artwork.
Sabretooth. Oh,
That's a
I
nice
love
bit of
Sabretooth.
artwork.
I actually really, really love Sabretooth. I feel like Sabretooth has never gotten like the limelight that he deserves. I feel like the man needs to get some like real redemption, some Wolverine level love, because people think that Sabretooth is just a nobody. They think that he's just like a bad guy villain, but he's actually a super strategic, genius level intellect, believe it or not.
He's just feral.
He's just
time.
extremely feral and has insane bloodlust.
He's smarter than Wolverine. He's just
absolutely.
crazier than Wolverine.
Yeah, the difference is that like Wolverine. See, if you were to compare the two, wholly, Wolverine is the one that shoot first, ask questions later, you know, and deal with it later, right? Wolverine is the one that's gonna jump in front of a hailstorm of bullets to cut someone's neck. Where Sabretooth will plan the infiltration to a T and execute it perfectly, just so that he can stand on top of you and slash your neck.
Unless
You know
there's
what I
a
mean?
bunch of wimpy humans that he could just murder for fun.
Like, yeah,
That's the only
like
difference.
if you guys, if any of you have ever gotten a chance to read like some of the '90s stuff, Age of Apocalypse in this like kind of alternate reality, Sabretooth is leading a team where he's like intelligently, you know, infiltrating bases, and so he's amazing. But they've never ever given him enough of that. You know, they've always made him. I feel like they've always made him into this villain that's like kind of B tier, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
you look at the very first X-Men movies that came out. You look at the X-Men Origins. He's more of like a
See, I was
I'm gonna
say,
bite first and ask questions later.
Yeah.
thing.
Not in Origins so much. In Origins, he
In
kind of
Origins,
Origins
it's
is
a
one
little
of the
bit. They
best
also,
Origins.
but they also played. They have a Liv Schreiber who like
who's fantastic.
he's
and everything.
fantastic as one of those cerebral kind of guys.
But he's still
know?
got like that like feral like insanity, but he's still very, very intelligent. And that's why X-Men Origins Wolverine annoys me so much, because the interpretation of Sabretooth is one of the best that we've ever seen, in my opinion.
We haven't seen many, but yeah.
Yeah, but like it's true. And but I mean throughout all mediums,
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah,
comic
that's
book and
true, yeah.
everything. Because in the movies, he's always just kind of been like
He's
just a tank.
See where Wolverine is a pure, you know, a berserker hunter. Sabretooth is the kind of hunter that you want to be. He's the hunter that will like find you without any advantages.
He's the predator.
He's a real predator. Yeah,
Actually,
absolutely.
that's not a bad
Yeah.
comparison. He kind of is
Yeah.
like that.
I could
'cause
totally see like
Predator-
freaking a young Arnold playing Sabretooth for sure.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Yeah.
That would have worked. I mean, but yeah, like anyway, getting back to it, That is one of my favorite panels in the comic.
What about
for sure.
what about like AJ? Do you have any specific areas in the comic that you?
I like the part where I don't remember which panel it is, but you get a really nice toothy, like I'm snarling at you. Yeah.
Sabretooth?
with
Yeah.
Sabretooth?
Yeah, and I think I know which one you're talking about. Is
that
it the
one of
one
these?
with?
That one's close, but I think
Is it this side view one? Look at my phone.
The one where he's
no.
At the bottom there? No.
Is it the one where he's talking to the here, I'm gonna show it to you.
No.
Where's
Maybe
this?
I'm misremembering, but
I mean, he definitely has a few like awesome panels. They drew him amazing in this issue. I mean, again, kudos to the artists and the writers. They did him absolutely wonderful here. And then we also kind of get like in that section, we get like a bit of Emma Frost's awesome attitude, which we've always gotten, you know. But in this instance, right when she's about to take Sabretooth away, we have one of the security people say, "No, this is not how this ends today. Not on my watch." And Emma, and she points a gun point blank at Emma's face, and Emma Frost, the White Queen, says, "Normally I dominate that little mind of yours and make you stick that gun where your last boyfriend left you. But I've been told the art of diplomacy is about equalizing power dynamics. So why don't you pretend that some larger American purpose is being served here today, and I'll pretend like you could have stopped me." Mm-hmm. And like just in those two little panels, it's like, whoa, this is like that's that super high level, put you down, get off me. And they just walk out with Sabretooth at that point.
And then not to go too far ahead in spoilers, but like later on we see how the placement of some of these mutants, how they kind of place them in the hierarchy of the political or leading class in Krakoa. This is a good reason why. You see like why they put her in that position of power, because she's not only is she one of the most powerful mutants in terms of her
Yes. Is she
telepathic
Omega
and
level?
telekinetic
I don't
abilities.
remember.
I believe she is.
We
It may
do
been
have a
retconned.
we do have a list in one of the issues. I don't remember which issue. We have a list of the Omega level mutants.
We have to double check it because I
Yeah.
believe she definitely used to be an Omega level mutant. I think they retconned that, but I think that might be the case again. But this is another instance of like, remember, she's not just an Omega level mutant. She's also very intelligent, very cunning. She's a little bit
She's
like
usually
Magneto in a way.
well, yeah, I think she definitely is, but she's a little bit more self-serving than Magneto. I think she's
Yeah.
fully self-serving, but that's
true.
also one of the interesting things is that whereas she's normally a very self-serving character, in this instance, it's like she still has that attitude of a self-serving person, but she decides that she speaks of like, oh, well, you know, I'm being taught that I need to be diplomatic and this, that, and the other. It's like all these people that we've always seen as villains are now coming together for this greater cause. Emma Frost, Magneto, and Apocalypse. I mean, this is amazing.
And we're not really halfway done.
And they're not even tricked into doing any of this. You know what I mean? It's not like any, special thing. It's all just for the common cause.
Except for Sabretooth.
Eli, do you have anything that jumped out of you from this issue?
I mean, there wasn't really much because it seemed like a short issue.
Oh, yeah, you
Not a
thought
lot
so?
happens, I guess.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what it is that we don't
Sort
have
of.
like we kind of got left on a cliffhanger. That's why.
Yeah.
We got left on a cliffhanger by that ship the X-wing, I guess, being blown to bits.
So, like, one of the things that I kind of liked was, I think you guys mentioned it, but it was basically just Sabretooth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, there isn't really much to it, but it's just the way he acts. He acts
He's
like such a
awesome.
child.
But I think
he does kind of act like a spoiled brat, you know.
Does.
I think the reason why I love it so much, though, is that he ends up being kind of pivotal to the way that things progress in the story.
Right, and we're gonna get to that. You're gonna see that Sabretooth actually plays a tremendously huge part in building this nation.
Almost passively, but
Well,
yes.
you will not guess how he is such why he's such a crucial part to building this nation.
Yeah, like why would a
but
guy
you'll
in
see.
I can guess
handcuffs
it.
be
Well,
crucial? Well,
no,
you
no,
read
no.
it.
No, you haven't read it yet.
You're not allowed
No,
to
he
guess
hasn't read it yet.
Oh, you haven't read it
Yeah, he
yet.
hasn't
That's
read
right.
it.
I
Well,
can
we'll
guess
take
it.
your guess afterwards because.
Yeah.
But I want to go back actually to the beginning of the issue, and I wanted to speak specifically on this part, just because it's the very beginning is it starts off like relatively somber, you know. It starts off with a Cyclops looking directly at Xavier and at Magneto, and again, it starts with him saying, "It's done. I've assembled a team, good mutants all who accept the mission for what it is." And I want to go through these panels because I think starting this issue the way that it did was huge for the emotion that they're trying to invoke in the reader. So I'm going to go through the dialogue of the first page. So again,
a great page, by the way,
yeah,
in terms of artwork as well.
The artwork is amazing, and the dialogue goes right with it, on top. So Cyclops says, "It's done. I've assembled a team, good mutants all who accept the mission for what it is. They understand both the stakes and the risk. They understand and embrace it." Xavier says, "Such a brave face you're wearing for me, but I can hear the fear in your mind, Scott." And Scott says, "Is it wrong that I'm afraid, that I have doubts?" And Xavier says, "Of course not." Missed the page. He says, "Of course not. You've always been that way. What matters is that you overcome it. And you do so for your family. You make me so proud. And let me put your fears to rest, my son. You're not going to die. I won't allow it." And here's the part that really kind of gets me.
Especially knowing what we know later.
Yeah. Especially seeing the freaking jet getting blown up, right? Magneto follows up and says, "For the righteous can never truly die. They live on, transformed into something immortal by their mighty works. For you to die, you would have to be forgotten. And no one forgets a founder of a nation."
This is honestly one of my favorite bits of dialogue in the whole thing. Like the entire comic. Because it really sums up, to me in a way, it sums up in an emotional and in a narrative way what it is that they're trying to do, in a sense. And not exactly, but like maybe in a metaphorical way. It's hard to describe how I feel about it, but like this line is fantastic.
Well, the thing is
delivered by Magneto, who's awesome.
Yeah, well, the thing is that like so you have like the dynamic, this very, very important dynamic here, where again we spoke about how like Cyclops is much more of a militaristic soldier in this one. A great soldier, follows orders, doesn't matter what the consequences are, and he's obviously very clear in stating that, well, relatively clear in stating that like they know that this is basically a suicide mission, and Cyclops has picked a team where he's described to them what this mission is and the risks of the mission and the consequences of it. And in Magneto and Xavier, we also now see the very caring and optimistic yet realistic Martin Luther King kind of figure in Xavier, trying to comfort him and let him know not to be afraid. He won't let him die. And we don't know exactly what that means as of yet, but Magneto, in a more Malcolm X hard metaphorical sense, instills in him that even if you die, you will not die because you will not be forgotten. So we know, we kind of get that feeling. This gives us the gravity of what we're about to read, that they're going off to a suicide mission, and Xavier, Magneto, and Cyclops all accept that this is probably going to be a suicide mission.
Yeah, it really is great, and I actually didn't think about it that way, but you're right. It kind of pushes the MLK,
and
Malcolm X dynamic,
because
a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's why to me that was definitely the marquee part of the issue, because of the way that it started. It already put it in the back of my mind that like, oh, something serious is going to happen, and we end the issue with the jet being blown up.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where we are. We're that's the three issues. Again, I think that we all rate the artwork absolutely phenomenal. I think that these three issues, art-wise, were as good, if not better. I think definitely better than the first three issues that we reviewed. And dialogue was amazing across all three issues. Any final thoughts before we go into reviews?
The only other small mention I want to make about artwork in this episode is I forgot I really liked
issue.
This issue.
We're reading.
I know. Why do I keep saying? I'm just so used to.
We're used to reviewing shows and movies. That's why
this issue,
and episode 9s.
Pardon my terrible nerdiness. the panel, the page in this issue where the Sentinels come out is really cool. I like the design of the Sentinels that they have here.
Yeah,
The one
man,
that's like, there's like a drill one. There's like that gigantic one.
Yeah, dude.
There's like the one with the
Yep.
really long arms, the ones with the hooks for arms. That's a really cool sequence as well. A really cool bit of artwork in this issue. I almost did it again, but I will not do that again.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I didn't notice it quite before, but now that we went like in sequence, like we saw these three, I like how with the artwork, you the first one we saw, it had like that very dreamy look to it.
Subtle, like more silhouettes.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
Then you went to the future one. It was hard. It was
Very-
cold.
yes.
That was meant.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah.
That was meant to drive home. This is real. This is happening. This is not a dream. Wake up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have this middle one here, which is kind of like a hybrid between
yeah,
the two.
mixture of both. Yeah,
And
you're
it's
right.
and it really, I guess, accentuates the concreteness of this present timeline.
That's very true. That's very true.
I like that. I like that dynamic with the artwork
Makes sense,
between
yeah.
these three.
You think of it
point.
thematically, and the earlier issues. I thought episodes, but I said issues. See, it was happening again. No, but in the earlier issues where they're young and hopeful, and Professor X is still like hasn't even formed the X-Men. You see that dreamlike dynamic because it's almost the dream of the future that they still
that's
haven't
true.
experienced.
I wonder if that was specifically intentional.
I bet it was. I
Yeah,
bet
I
it
guess
was
so.
because even when you look at like I had mentioned earlier how some of the panels in these issues have like color themes and all of
Yeah,
that. Everything seems very intentional in the artwork. And then Meta, you talked about it when we talked about one of the earlier issues where the sunlight was very clearly coming out of different directions
in the last
and
episode.
very
Yeah.
accentuated. We talked about that there. So I think that a lot of the artwork is extremely intentional. I think even the way that they position certain characters on panels is supposed to say something maybe subtle that we don't find out about them in these stories, or that we find out in later issues. But I think, to your point, definitely, Meta, the way that the artwork is set up in this is really, really deliberate, really, really intentional, and really intelligent, really intelligently done for all of you intellectuals out there.
One of the cool things that I also want to say specifically about this issue is that at the end of the issue, we also get the Krakoan alphabet, which is pretty freaking cool. Up until this point, the issues have had like certain messages, which I still kind of want to go back and see if those messages are translations to the titles or if
told
there's
you.
like a hidden message in there.
I told you I have to go back and read all of this.
Because now that we have the alphabet, I want to see what those earlier issues showed. But
Easter eggs.
definitely want to see how I write my name in this alphabet. So reviews then. So I'll go first since last time I went last. I'm gonna pretty much I want to say I'm gonna give this a 10 for the 3. Okay. Again, this isn't we still need to finish the entire thing before we give our full on order. But for me, these 3 issues together, this little section of the story is definitely a 10. I mean, with the art was absolutely phenomenal across all 3 issues. Dialogue was amazing across all 3 issues, and the key scenes that we got across all 3 issues were amazing. The Apocalypse, Wolverine killing Moira, just so many amazing moments in just these 3 issues. I don't see how I could not give it a 10.
Great dialogue.
Yeah, it was just this is to me like the perfect example. Like if you want to be a stellar inker, colorist, sketch artist, dialogue, whatever, this is a perfect example. Like I can't see how you give any comic book enthusiast these 3 books and tell them that there's something wrong anywhere in these books.
Yeah, because when you look at it, the artwork in these issues serves more than just the visual aesthetic. It serves the story.
Yes,
which is,
yes.
That's
Yeah,
what you're
especially
supposed
now-
to do as a
and-
comic artist.
Yeah, and now that we even talk about it more, talking about how like in the very subtle examples of the softer colors in the older timelines, the sharp lines, the bold lines that Eli pointed out in the future timelines, the combination of both to denote the present, like that's this is comic books aren't just obviously they're a visual medium. So it's important that they're telling the story with the art, not just in the obvious sketches and the story progression that they're creating in the images of the people and the environments that they create, but also in the way that they apply elements of the art that's not direct. You know what I mean? And you know, when you can, like, that's, again, another reason why I give this a 10. So.
Okay, so you know what? I'll go next and give my opinion on this one. So this is, I actually preferred the first 3 issues, but only slightly.
Agreed.
Okay.
I would give this a 9.5. The only reason I say that is not because anything in these issues is particularly negative in any way, other than the fact that, and I won't fault anything in the writing or the artwork for this. Maybe it's just because I'm a dummy. But, like, I was definitely confused for a little bit. And I know that we get a little bit more of the information in later issues about what's going on in some of these. But only because of that, where I got a little too confused at some points, and I really had to go back a little bit. And because a lot happens in these issues, but not quite as much as in the first 3, I think, and in the last 3, which is fine. But for those small reasons, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I still think it's great. And because of the great moments that we get, like you mentioned, a lot of great moments with Sabretooth, some of the best dialogue and best writing in the entire run is in these issues. Some of the best artwork, even though the last issue was one of my least favorite ones in terms of artwork. They're still all great.
The last issue was like an epilogue, and we'll talk more about that when we get there. But it was very much more like an epilogue versus an ending.
It's probably intentional in a way that I haven't noticed yet.
And we're gonna get to that, and I have like my thoughts on that when we get to that episode.
Okay. But you know, like visually, it looks great. There's some great panels, like I said, great moments. And the thing of it that's interesting is, so this is gonna relate to a manga. I was reading the Dragon Ball Super manga, and there were a lot of complaints about it. When you get past the anime, actually, when you get to like the Moro saga and all that stuff, there were a lot of complaints because this is another thing about being a comic artist. You have to know how to tell your story without clutter, and there was a lot of complaints in the first few issues when they got past the anime that the manga was just cluttered panels where there was just way too much going on, and it just becomes visually noisy and messy. I love how efficient they are with the panels in this one. Nothing ever gets too crazy.
But you know what? I think that comes to the language of the colors, the colorists and the design language, I guess, of the color scheme of the book, which is why we have like very simple colors, as opposed to like a lot of heavy textures and stuff like that. You know,
Yes.
I think of. You know, the opposite of this would be Frank Miller. You know, like his style, like everything is very, very textured. A lot of like, you know, a lot of depth and everything. It could be really busy. So if you see like a page that has like 7 or 8 panels full of really busy, you know, backgrounds and images, it would be tough to get through. Over here, we have simpler designs, simpler color selections, just really, really good cohesive color selections.
Yeah,
So,
even when there's a lot going on in that particular page, it's efficiently sort of spread out so as not to overwhelm you with one panel. Every panel still gets its chance to stand out. And there are certainly panels where, as we've noted, there's like a really great bit of artwork or a really great bit of dialogue. But the visual language and the efficiency of the way that they plot it out is very, very good. But, I mean, yeah, like it's almost perfect for me. This entire comic run is almost perfect.
I thought it was a little bit less confusing. I mean, I know that like the first Powers of 10 issue that we read was pretty confusing, but in this one I feel like we got a little bit more information. I mean, we got more information to be confused with, I guess. But at least we were introduced to more elements of this future generation, the Phalanx, the Librarian, Nimrod the Great, all that
little
stuff.
breadcrumbs that they're
little
dropping for
breadcrumbs.
you.
So like, you know, I see like for me, going from like the first issue of Powers of 10 to these 2 issues of Powers of 10, I felt like I started seeing how these breadcrumbs were coming together to build a crust at least. So
That's fair enough. But
Eli?
I mean, that's my opinion.
Eli, what give us your review of these 3 issues, your rating, so to speak, or any final thoughts you might have. Let me ask you a question. Did you find this corny at all?
Oh yes, that's the
That's the
I
benchmark
don't
for
think
me
you guys
now.
are. I don't think you guys are gonna like my answer.
It.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Go on.
7 out of 10.
What?
7 out of 10.
wow.
A 7?
That's
Oh
a
my
surprisingly
gosh.
low
Interesting.
number. Why is
Tell
that?
me.
You're
Say
interesting,
more.
or you're
I thought at
interested?
least an
I
8.
think you're interesting. You're
I-
totally interesting.
interested.
You're a very
I meant-
interesting person.
Interested.
Interesting.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. and doggone
you
it,
said
people
7
like
or
you.
7.5? I don't remember.
7.
I need that
A
coffee.
7? Oh my gosh.
What
Go on.
I
happened?
found the first 3 the most interesting.
Why?
Huh?
Well, that's fine. Explain yourself.
Why the 7 out of 10?
I don't know.
You must know.
It's either it was a little bit too complicating, or no, I don't think that was it. I think it's probably because there's so much dialogue, and I can't get like there's this one page page 3 out of 32 on
In this issue that
Which
we were
issue?
just
Powers
on.
of X3.
Okay.
Or no, this is House of X. Or
no,
you're
he's
right.
Powers of 10.
Yeah.
Powers of 10.
Powers of 10.
And page 4 too. There's just so much dialogue, and I just
Man,
that's
you
where I
would
got a
not
little
have survived in the
confused.
90s.
huh?
Yeah.
There's so much dialogue.
But
Like,
is,
okay.
it,
I understand.
is it bad
But
dialogue?
is it
though?
bad dialogue? Like, I don't
Like-
think it's bad dialogue.
like-
It's a lot of information, but it's not bad dialogue.
Number
I think.
3, I didn't find that the dialogue didn't even really matter.
Right now.
Yet?
Yes.
Number-
That's the thing.
Yes,
Okay.
but this is the thing.
He is talking about it standalone though, so I will give you that. You're talking about this kind of just in its
I guess,
own
yeah. Yeah, we
removed
are
from
talking
the
about
entire thing, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I will say
You're
that-
right. You're right.
I will say that it does start to make sense as you get into the end of it.
But we
But-
are rating it just these 3 issues.
Exactly.
So
What did you think? What else did you think about it though? Are you rating that because of the artwork, because of the dialogue, because of all the
art
details?
is 10 out of 10.
You love the art. Okay.
Art is 10
Okay.
out of 10. Well,
love the art.
The last one,
Was not your
I
favorite.
would agree that the last. I would agree that the
But
House
I
of
still give it
X3 wasn't as strong.
8.5.
It's still good for artwork.
It was great for artwork. It wasn't the reason to me. It wasn't as striking as Powers of 10 3 was because of the scenes that we got in Powers of 10. That's why. So it might have felt like lackluster because we didn't see no huge apocalypse. We didn't see no Wolverine like stabbing Moira. We didn't see Zorn, committing suicide and stuff like that. We didn't see any of that striking stuff. So that's why, to me, again, like it's, the moments versus the art. It's important to make sure that we're judging it accordingly.
I mean, there were some points where the dialogue, like, it really just got me super interested in the storyline. But then there was, like, some points in the dialogue where it's, like, just, like, really? And then...
Do you have a favorite part out of all of this? Like a favorite sequence or a favorite part of an issue? Maybe a favorite panel? Is there something that really stood out to you that you really, really liked and really, really enjoyed?
The thing that I really liked most, and
Because a 7
I
to 10
think
still isn't that bad.
Andre knows this. I don't remember where it was. I think it was Powers of X. I mean,
Powers of 10 in
yeah,
episode 3.
House of X actually.
I know, I'm a jerk. It was House of X number 3?
I'm getting mixed up.
Well,
I'm
what's
getting mixed
what's
up.
the sequences you're talking about, and then we'll figure out what issue it was in.
No.
Because I can't even remember what
No,
issue everything is in anyway.
Yeah, it's no. I'm
Well,
sorry. I read a little bit ahead.
Oh, this is past what we just talked about?
Yeah, I've been reading a little bit ahead.
Oh, well, that doesn't help.
Yeah. So.
Well, what about
but
what we just talked about? Is there something in there that stood out to you, or do you want to end your review
Sadly?
there?
Sadly, no.
I guess that's why it's a 7 out of 10, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's fair,
sadly.
though.
Let me ask you this, because again, our rating system is if it's 1 out of 5, it's don't bother reading it, or maybe at least think about it, but definitely don't buy it. 6 to 10, it's consider buying it, definitely reading it. Do you feel like somebody should buy these, or somebody should just borrow them or read them on the app? Do you think it's worth a buy?
Off the top of your head.
Okay.
Like if you had $5 for a Big Mac or this issue. And you can only get one of the two. Which one would you do?
Do you even like Big Macs?
Sadly.
Oh my gosh, you would say the
You would
Big
buy
Mac?
the Big Mac?
Oh my god.
No, I wouldn't even.
It probably
buy the-
wasn't even a
No,
good
no.
idea to make it food.
No, I wouldn't even buy the Big Mac. I would just save my money. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first 3 issues I would
Yeah.
recommend definitely buy. That's definitely.
Wow.
And then
'Cause-
forget about the rest of the story. No.
No,
I
and
mean,
then,
you
and
can
then
still
the
read it and enjoy the story, but
and then
add it to your collection if you
Le-
feel like
and-
you don't need to add it to your collection.
the first few and then the last 3. But just in case you want to like make a collection, then I'd suggest just buying the whole entire thing.
All right, so I guess the 7 makes sense. To like definitely read it, possibly buy it. Okay.
And it does lead somewhere. Okay, so you're
AJ?
entitled to your opinion, even though it's wrong.
Absolutely.
Just kidding. Just kidding. What's up, buddy?
So I'm
Our
gonna
final
rate
review of
this
the night.
a 9 out of 10.
All right.
The
My man,
reason
pound it
why
right there.
the reason why
Bring
it's
respect
9
back to the House of X.
Eli, you're removed from the podcast.
the reason why it's 9 and not 9.5 or even 9.9 is because, and I know we haven't talked about this yet, but I really love the last 3 issues of this run.
Those are
We
your favorites?
cannot.
I
hold
know,
on,
I know,
no,
I
no,
know,
no,
I
no.
know,
You
I know.
cannot. You
I know.
cannot base it off of that. You have to judge just these 3
Yeah,
issues.
judge it on its own merits.
Okay, because we're gonna get a chance to judge the entire series together. But some people might want to collect a couple of the issues. Some people might just want to read all these issues. Some people might want to collect the entire series based on your recommendations. Now, of course, a 9 is probably a buy, but we
would
do
say
need to
still.
judge it. We do need to judge it just these 3 issues. Let's stick to our guns over here.
I know it's
Judge
not easy,
These 3 issues,
But try it as
on
Yeah.
its own,
do it on its own.
without comparing it to anything else.
And if it's still a 9, it's still a 9. But
Yeah. So, with regards to, I like, at first, I wasn't too fond of this whole phalanx situation. Like, okay, we're getting into some really outworldy, new worldy stuff, but I come to appreciate it. But you guys really need to read the stuff in between. It enlightens you so much.
Yeah.
Like, I read through the whole thing the first time. And I was like, okay, what did I just read? All right, maybe if I go and look at this middle stuff, and
I don't
it
read those.
makes
you have to. I haven't read all of it. I read a little
I
bit
don't
of
read
it.
those
I
at
have
all.
not read all of it.
I read
Of
all
like
of them.
The supplemental
The
information.
data dumps? No, you got to
Yeah.
read them.
That's why.
What I've been doing is I read the issue, and then I go back and read the data dumps after I read the entire issue, because sometimes like I don't want to like read like the data dumps. I want to go through the story because I'm like anxious to find out what the next panel has, and then I go back and read like the bonus stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's
the-
why I
but-
didn't do that either. It's too jarring for me when you're like reading the comic and then it's like, all right, let's read this encyclopedia entry that's like 3 pages long, and then go back to
It's
a
not
panel.
3 pages
Yeah,
long.
but
It's
yeah,
1 page.
But that's the thing.
There's
like,
a lot in the first issue.
one
though.
or
The
maybe
first
2.
Issue, the
Yeah.
first issue. No, but the first
They're
issue
important,
is like,
man. They're
is
important. They're
all
really,
data
really
dumps.
important.
The very first issue of the entire thing was House of X 1, I think.
That wasn't a lot. I mean,
It's
it was
like
a decent
40
amount, but again,
pages.
but the reason they're important is because it's world building stuff.
Wait,
So
hold on, I gotta go back to that.
and
You
no,
can
no,
continue.
you can go back to that after the episode.
No, you can continue. I'm just gonna look at it
Yeah.
and for my own purposes.
I understand it can be a little dense, but I mean, in my defense, I'm kind of used to dense at this point, so it's like I can read through the whole thing and it's like, oh, okay, cool. But either way, Phalanx wasn't too much of a fan of it. It grows on me.
Agreed.
I like the the thing that I pointed out earlier with the way they use the art to like symbolize time or like give you a sense of what time period you're in, aside from this is the year 100. In terms of the actual story, it was a little like you were going up with those first 3 issues, and then it starts to kind of plateau for me a little bit. And
Okay.
but then once you get to the very last panel of the House of X3, is like, okay, whoa, now we're going down.
Right.
What? So I guess maybe on that account that's why it's a 9, but don't by any means take that as a bad thing. That's a good thing.
No,
That's still
yeah.
really
because
good.
that
absolutely.
because that kept me like, okay, whoa, what are they? Where are they going to go from here?
Yeah.
Where's the next issue?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so that's my rating, 9. Definitely buy it.
All right,
It's
well,
your
there you
collection.
have it. You got a 10 from me, a 9.5, I believe.
Yes, sir.
From Mose, a 7.5, a 7 from Eli.
6.5 actually.
Don't do that.
No,
Don't
come
do
on,
that.
No.
You
No.
can't troll your fans, man. You can't troll our fans
Okay,
like that.
fine.
That's terrible.
6.9.
No, we're
That's
only
not a
doing
rating.
halves.
It's
Yeah,
halves.
it's
Seven.
seven.
Just seven. Just seven. Okay.
7 is fine.
We're not gonna change.
I mean,
it all
7's
this.
not
I'm
fine.
so
but
sorry for right now. I'm so sorry to the fans out there who are diehard about these 3 last issues.
You're allowed to rate it as a
Wait,
7,
What?
but that means that these fans are allowed to troll you.
And then AJ has given it a 9. That, I believe, is the end of this issue. Now, this episode.
This episode of the podcast.
So-
and this issue.
All right,
the
so
comic.
following up on our next episode, which we will hopefully get done by in a week or so.
We should be dropping it.
We should
a
be
week
dropping
after
this one. Yeah, we're gonna try to drop them week after week. The next 3 issues that we're gonna be reviewing are gonna be House of X 4, Powers of 10 4, and then House of X 5, which is highlighted in red, so we know something big happens in the next episode. So if you're reading along, those are the 3 issues that we're gonna be reviewing. Keep reading, keep following, keep sharing our podcast.
Keep listening.
Keep listening.
Keep listening.
Thank you to our listeners,
for
especially.
the-
Oh, and you know what? Thanks a lot to you guys out there, because we're definitely growing in our listener base, and so I want to give a special thanks to you guys. Please keep sharing so that we can grow more. The more that we grow, the more that we can do for our community, like giveaways and stuff like that. We will have a giveaway that we're going to be announcing at the end of this series of episodes where we're reviewing the House of X and Powers of 10 line. But yeah, Jose, you want to give them the addresses? Oh, AJ.
And shout out to our guys on Instagram who are actually responding to us when we do the posts.
Yeah,
that's been really fun.
We love the community engagement. We love you guys commenting. We love to engage and continue dialogue with you guys. So please keep it coming, keep it going.
I'm gonna
tell us what you guys want us to post that make you guys comment, so that we can give you more of that.
I'm gonna say one thing that has really stood out to me, and actually also maybe you guys out there in internet land can point out to me what the heck is going on here, because maybe some of you are a little bit more well versed in Instagram than we are. I don't know. But I was looking at one of the posts that we did on our last episode of the House of X Powers and 10 reviews that we've been doing. And if we look at our feed directly from our page, excuse me for a moment while I look at it, it has 9 likes. Okay? If we look at our notifications, this post has 1,578 likes. So I don't know who's engaging us out there. I don't really know how this works. Instagram is weird. Yeah, but look at it. 1,500 likes.
Whoa.
1,500.
On what?
Where?
I know, I'm confused. But it doesn't even matter.
What in the world?
It doesn't even matter. That means there's definitely some engagement happening somewhere. But regardless of that, I want to just, piggyback on what Wolfie
Dude,
said.
that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for the engagement that we've had on our last few episodes. They've been some of our most popular ones so far. And again, thanks for, as
And
AJ
there's
said,
one more thank you that we got to give out there, and that's to our fearless leader who was not able to be part of our episode tonight, Walt, who is out in the world handling personal matters and saving the world as we know it. So
some business.
being the hero that we all know and love. So
Handling
thank you
that
for
business.
being the man that handles all the back end stuff.
Walt will be back soon, we hope.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll get him back on our next episode. Well, that's it, guys.
Yeah.
That's it. Again, so many thanks to all of you who are engaging us on Instagram and elsewhere. in the recent weeks and recent months as we've re-released ourselves to Get Geek. We're really enjoying it, and we're really enjoying all your feedback. We're really enjoying the relationships we're building, all of you. As we've said in the past, we want this to be a community, and baby steps, but we're getting closer to that goal because we're getting the type of engagement that we want, your opinions, your thoughts on all the things that we talk about. And some of you congratulating us on our growth, and some of your other podcasts that we engage with, having a relationship with them and congratulating them on their own growth. So again, just many thanks. I can't say it enough. Thank you so much to the fans out there. Thank you so much to the people who have engaged with us and have shared our content, liked our content. On that note, as always, guys, look us up on all the familiar social media platforms. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can find our podcast on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. We're also on Twitter. Check us out everywhere you can. Share and subscribe. Rate us on iTunes. Just let us know what you think. As always, keep engaging us. We love your comments on Instagram. Keep them coming. We love your feedback. We love your likes. And, just because I have said it so many times, I'll say it once more. Thank you so much to the community and the fans that we're starting to build out there. Many thanks from us. That's another episode that we're going to be signing off on. And as always, I am Jose Wolfie.
The fellow intellectual AJ over here.
Shoot. Hold on.
Okay,
No,
we don't.
Don't do it.
We don't need that.
No.
Oh,
That's not your
God.
name. That's not your name.
I just love doing this.
That's not your name.
Why?
That's not
Eli.
your name, bro. That's not your name, bro. All right.
Let's stop.
bruh.
Let me stop.
From the boy Eli, bruh, and from the whole crew here, and
Peace out.
from Walt as well, who will be joining us again soon. Thanks very much, guys. And as always, my friends, stay geeky.